Hello guys, welcome back to yet another video. Today we have got Premier League predictions for the 23-24 season from you and me. It's a big one. It's our official predictions as the season starts very soon. How are you feeling, Sophie?
Yeah, I'm actually excited. I feel like the Premier League is a little bit easier to predict than the other leagues.
In a way it is, but we'll still get a few of these
miles off,
badly wrong.
Yeah.
But that's the fun of it, guys. Do feel free to share your predictions down below as well and come back to this video at the end of the season and see how you got on. If you don't agree with our predictions, that's fair enough, but don't hate on us. Just share your predictions down below. Your predictions won't offend us, so don't let our predictions offend you. And like I say, we have to predict 3 teams to go down. We don't like predicting teams to go down, but 3 teams will go down. Before we get into this video, please do show some support. Let's go for 900 likes on this one. Hit that thumbs up button and do make sure to subscribe as well. If you subscribe, you can keep up to date with this Premier League channel as well, as we'll be doing our weekly Premier League predictions as the season gets underway very soon. Let's go through the teams alphabetically, Sophie, starting with AFC Bournemouth. I've got them in 18th place. I'm a little bit unsure here with Bournemouth. I jumped between 17th and 18th whilst recording this. They've brought in Fiver, Kluivert and Traore. They've brought in a few players here. I think the thing that's disrupted things a little bit is the change in manager. Now, I know that might still be a positive thing for Bournemouth, but I really liked O'Neill and the job he did at Bournemouth. They brought in Areola and they could be even better next season. I think that's why they've done it, to push on. But I feel like
it's a risk.
It's a risk. It is a risk. It could pay off, it might not. I was tossing and turning here with Bournemouth, and I'm really sorry I've gone for you to just go down.
Okay, I've got you to stay up. I don't think it's going to be a bad season. I underestimated you last season, and that's why this season I'm not going to do the same. I do feel like you're going to have enough to stay up. I feel like there's 3 worse teams worse than you, and I do feel like it's a risk with bringing a new manager in, especially after, I think your manager did a great job last season, to be honest. So it is risky. However, I feel like it may pay off, as I do see you surviving again and like a little bit more comfortably. So 15th.
15th. You're braver than I am. I wanted to back Bournemouth to stay up, but I bottled it. Fair play to you, Sophie. Right, on to the next team. It's Arsenal. I'm going to say Arsenal will finish second again. I don't see Arsenal dropping down the table, but I just don't think they can challenge the monopoly that is Manchester City at the top of the table. They brought in Declan Rice and Kai Havertz, which I think are really good additions to this Arsenal team that's already, runners-up from last season. You've got the likes of Saka, who's another year older, another year better in my opinion. I think they've got a really good team here, and I think Arsenal won't drop this season. Once again, I don't think they've got the power to challenge Man City just yet, but second.
See, I have them dropping 1 place this season. I agree they've brought in Declan Rice, who I think is a great signing for them. Kai Havertz, I don't know, this one for me could go either way. It depends what Arteta can get out of him. He obviously didn't have a great spell at Chelsea, but I do feel like there's a good player in there. So it'd be interesting to see what Arteta can get out of him. I do feel like it's going to be another top 4 finish for me, but not as good as last season. So 3rd place.
Okay, next up we've got Aston Villa. Now I've put Aston Villa to finish in 8th place this year, which would be another really good season. They've brought in Pau Torres, Moussa Diaby, Yuri Tielemans as well. Another prediction I'm going to make is I think Aston Villa are going to win the Europa Conference League. I think they're going to win the Europa Conference League, and I think them going far in that competition means the Premier League will be really hard to advance in, but I still think they'll hold on to like a top 8 finish, which would be incredible. Villa all of a sudden are just this powerhouse again. You know, they are a big club. They're a big club
and they've got a big budget as well, to be honest.
But until Emery came in, they've been kind of floating around like an empty crisp packet in the Premier League, sort of drifting from mid-table down to the bottom echelons. But Emery's come in, they've got an identity, they're bringing in good players, they're spending money, they're in Europe. Villa look good, 8th place. Yeah,
I agree. Villa look good for me. I really like Unai Emery, and I feel like being in Europe isn't actually going to affect the Premier League too much. I do feel like they've got a good squad and fair squad depth as well, and I feel like it's going to be another good season. So a 7th place finish for me.
Wow, okay, so they're going to hold on to a top 7. That'd be incredible. Okay, over to Brentford. Brentford I've put in 10th place for me. I think they'll be mid-table, more or less the same as we've seen over the last season or so now. The question mark this season is Ivan Toney. He's obviously, going to be a big miss because he gets the goals at Brentford, but they're still a very strong team. They don't... Ivan Toney gets the goals, but they don't necessarily work
just
badly without him. Yeah, they can work without him. They brought in Nathan Collins, Shard. They brought in a couple of players, and Thomas Frank I just think is a really good manager. The trajectory of that club is going in the right direction, so I don't think Brentford will be worse necessarily. If they are, it'll be by 1 or 2 places maximum. I've got Brentford in the middle again. Yeah,
I've got Brentford in the middle as well. I've got them to finish 10th. I do see them having another pretty good season. I feel like there's going to be some games where they get great results. I like Thomas Frank as a manager, and I feel like he gets the best out of that squad because they've not got the biggest budget in the league. They're not one of the biggest teams in the league, and he's up there with the big boys, so fair play to him. 10th place for me.
10th place. Right, next up we have got Brighton. Brighton are also going to be in Europe next season. As for the Premier League, I think they're going to be 9th. I could see them staying in that top 10. Once again, Brighton are a team that are very clever with their recruitment. They've brought in some decent players. They've brought in the likes of James Milner. They've also brought in João Pedro from Watford. That's a decent signing as well. McAllister's gone out the door to Liverpool, but they could also lose Caicedo as well, who's been linked with a couple of clubs. He could have gone by the time we released this video. I think Brighton might drop 1 or 2, 3 places maximum this season because they're in Europe and they've lost 1 or 2 big players, but they're still a very stable squad in the Premier League to be in that top 10 again for me.
Yeah, their business for me is very, very good. They get big fees for players that a couple of seasons ago you wouldn't have even heard of, so they turn little hidden gems into like big names and they get big money for it, and then they invest it back into the squad. So I do feel like it's going to be another decent season. So again, I agree with you. I feel like they're going to finish 9th place, so top 10 finish, not a bad season.
Interesting. Right, let's move on to Burnley, who absolutely smashed the Championship last season. I'm going to go for Burnley to finish in 14th. They've brought in the likes of Redmond, Obafemi, Trafford, Amdouni and O'Shea. I think their recruitment's pretty sensible, to be honest. Company will be able to draw good players to Burnley because, you know, he's a manager that players should want to play for. And I think the trajectory is now upwards for Burnley. After a few seasons in the Premier League floating just above the bottom 3 with Sean Dyche, I think maybe being relegated is going to be a good thing for Burnley. I think they're going to come up and comfortably stay up, in my opinion. 14th.
Okay, not quite so comfortable for me. I do feel like they're going to have enough to stay up. I do feel like that's going to be their main target this season, just stay up and then look on from there. And yeah, I've got them to finish 17th, so not a terrible season when you first come up into the Premiers. It's so hard to stay up. But I like what they've been doing this summer transfer window. I like what Company did last season, and I feel like he's going to do another good job this season.
Okay, right, let's move on to Chelsea. So, Chelsea I've struggled with. I'm going to put them in 7th place. Chelsea's a really difficult one, I must admit. I really don't know what to say, especially after they finished 12th last year. But surely that's rock bottom for them. Surely they can't hit lower than that. I think everyone does expect them to climb after that. Even though there's been lots of players going out the door, there is lots of quality going out. But Pochettino's the manager, and I do rate him. I think he was good for Spurs, and if Chelsea give him enough time, he might be able to build up a good team here. Like I say, I think they're going to improve and get up to 7th place. They've brought in a decent player in Nkunku, and they're also bringing in quite a few players. I'm going to go 7th. I think there will be an improvement. It's hard to say how much the improvement will be. It could be a couple places or it could be a drastic improvement. But for me, it's a 5-place improvement.
Yeah, for me, it's a drastic improvement. I see them finishing top 5. They're going to finish 5th for me. I've seen little bits of them in pre-season. I know it's pre-season, so you can't really judge teams on that. But it looks like they're working together as a team now. And that's what was going wrong last year. It was just, they spent a lot of money and they brought in some big names, some good players. But it wasn't clicking. And if they can get it clicking this season, I feel like it's going to be a much better season. So 5th place for me.
5th place. Okay, let's move on to Crystal Palace. Crystal Palace are that middle team, and I've gone for them to be that middle team again. Crystal Palace will finish in 11th place. They've brought in Jefferson Lerma, who I think's a good signing, but Zaha's gone out the door. He's gone to Galatasaray, and I think he's been amazing for Palace. I think one of the most underrated Premier League players, by the way, Zaha. Didn't get enough credit for me. But anyway, he's not there this season. I still think they're solid. They've got Roy Hodgson. Who's just always been solid with Palace, and he came in last season and kept them up. So stick with him; he'll keep you. He'll keep you out of trouble.
12th place finish for me, so not a bad season. I feel like sticking with Roy is the right thing to do at the moment. There are a couple more players that are linked to leave, so I don't know whether that's going to happen before the window's over. If it does, I feel like that might cause them to drop a couple places because they are good players. But at the moment, with the team they've got, I see it being a 12th place finish.
Okay, moving on to Everton, and is there anything more Everton than finishing 17th? I think Everton are just about going to survive again. They just know how to do it. I mean, they are a massive club. They're not the 17th biggest club in the country. They're in the top 8 for me. They're a massive club, but they are a bit of a fallen giant to an extent because they are struggling to get by in the Premier League. Now, in my early predictions, I did go for them to go down, but then I thought about it and thought, Everton don't go down. They get involved, but they find a way of surviving. I think it's very possible they could this time round, but I think history tells us if you go for Everton 17th, you won't be a million miles off. They've brought in Ashley Young, who I think is going to be, a steady player, experience, and Dan Juma as well, which is not a bad signing. They've got Sean Dyche, who's a manager who knows how to get by in the Premier League. So I don't think Everton are going to be necessarily inspiring, but I can't go for you to go down. Everton, you just got enough to stay up, in my opinion.
I agree. I've got them to finish 16th. I feel like it's going to be another season where they're going to be down there. They're going to be around that relegation zone, and at times you'll feel like, oh God, they're set to go down. But it's just a typical Everton thing at the moment to just stay up. And I feel like Sean Dyche is a bit of a specialist in saving teams from relegation. I do agree. I feel like Everton should be a lot higher up that table, and I do feel for the fans.
Okay, right, Fulham are up next. I'm going to go for Fulham to drop down the table a bit, but not go down. The thing is, they were very good last year. They took everyone by surprise, including ourselves. Everyone wrote them off because they were a bit of a yo-yo. But I think they're going to stay up again, maybe not be as good as last season. When it comes to recruitment, I don't think there's many players coming in, to be honest. And Mitrovic looks like he could be going out. Mitrovic, has been important to Fulham with goals. Even though, last season he missed a few games with suspension as well. I think Fulham have got enough to stay up. Marcus Silva's a good manager, but I could see maybe a slight fall down the table.
Yeah, I agree. They surprised a lot of people and a lot of teams in the Premier League last season, but then sometimes teams come up and do that. Like Sheffield United a few years ago, they came up, second season went down. Don't think Fulham are going to go down. Mitrovic, I feel like he's going to be a big miss. I know he's not definitely gone yet, and Raul Jimenez as his replacement. But Jimenez for me has not been the same since his injury, so I don't think that's a like-for-like replacement for Mitrovic, and I feel like they are going to miss him if he does go. So on the back of all of that, I do see them dropping down a little bit, but safety, so 14th for me.
Yeah, okay, interesting. Let's move on to Liverpool, Soph. I think Liverpool get back into that top 4 this season, and in 3rd place as well for me. It's hard, isn't it, this time round, because Liverpool have been always a team you're sure of getting in the top 4, and then they went and didn't do it last season. But Jurgen Klopp's still there. Recruitment-wise, McAllister, Szoboszlai, decent players. I think they're just bringing in younger faces while older faces go out the door. Obviously no Henderson or Milner this time round. I think they've got the quality to get back on track, and we saw that towards the end of the season. Their results got a bit better, and they smashed Man United 7-0 and showed how good they could be against Liverpool when they against Bournemouth. When they beat them 9-0. I think Liverpool get back on track, 3rd place.
I actually disagree. I think it's going to be another poor season for Liverpool. I actually see them finishing 6th. I know they've strengthened up at the top. I mean, they have lost Firmino, and I feel like he is actually going to be a bit of a miss. Their midfield is quite young now compared to like the average age of like 40 in midfield. Their defence, though, that is really what worries me at the moment. I feel like if they bring in a couple of decent centre-backs, then I feel like they'll be all right this season and they will finish top 4. However, right now, their defence is worrying me, and I'm going to have to say 6th place.
Okay, right, let's move on to Luton Town, Sophie. A lot of people will be writing off Luton Town this season. I've got them in 19th place. I haven't got the bottom, but I do think they'll go down. I desperately want them to stay up. I would love to see them stay up. Honestly, I mean that, Luton Town fans.
Yeah.
But I struggled here. The Premier League is very competitive, as we all know. The recruitment they've done is sensible, I suppose. Tahith Chong, Mads Anderson, Marvelous Nakamba. I think they've brought in players that will make them competitive, but I just don't know if they've got enough Premier League quality in there. So I don't think they'll finish bottom. I think they'll pick up points here and there. They might get a few at home, the odd few points on the road as well. And like I say, I'd like to see Luton Town stay up. Rob Edwards is a really good manager. Yeah. But for me, I think their recruitment looks as if they've built a team that if they go down from the Premier League
should come back
will
up.
be strong enough to get them back up again. So that's my prediction here for over 2 years. Luton to maybe go down but then come back up. So there you go, Luton fans.
I was going to say the exact same. I do have you to finish 20th, so rock bottom, unfortunately. I would love you to stay up. I think most people would say that. It'd be a bit of a story. But I just don't see you doing it, especially like with the recruitment. People would look at it, and if you're in the Championship, you would think, oh, your recruitment's been great this season. However, you're a Premier League team, and there's not that Premier League experience there throughout the squad. I do feel like you're going to struggle. I do see you getting points here and there. I don't think it's going to be an absolute terrible season where you get no points. But I don't see you staying up. 20th.
20th, okay. Right, let's go from down the bottom up to the top. Manchester City are going to win the league for me, and I can't see why anyone would go for anyone else. Yes, you've got Arsenal. Yes, you've got Man United, who are teams that can try and hold their own against Man City over one game or try and be in the title race halfway through the season. But over a 38-game stretch, there is no team better than Manchester City. In terms of recruitment, they haven't actually brought many in, but Kovacic, you know, is a decent enough signing. They've already just got the quality that it takes to win the league there. They've got Haaland, you know, De Bruyne, Guardiola, Ederson.
Walker might be going out though, and that would be a big miss.
Yeah, Walker, yeah. But I still think Man City are unbelievably powerful. They're going to win the league.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like virtually everyone's predictions are going to say Man City to win the league. It's a safe bet. I wouldn't even put any money on it because it's not worth it. But Man City, the squad they've got, the young players they're bringing through as well, and the confidence they have, the composure, especially like when the pressure is on, you're playing with world-class players, and they just look so calm and composed. So I don't feel like they're just a good team now, but they're even building for the future, which is really worrying how dominant they're going to be. I don't think you can say anything other than Man City to finish as champions again. Yeah, I just think everyone's going to agree with that. Let's move on to the other side of Manchester United, who I think will just about get in that top four again. Now, Manchester United finished in 3rd place last season. I've gone for them to finish 4th place this time round. I think Ten Hag can take a lot of positives from last season. Finishing 3rd, winning the League Cup as well. You know, that's a good first season considering where they were under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. They've brought in a couple of players already, obviously Onana, Mason Mount. I think they're decent signings. Their business might not be over yet at the moment. They might still bring in a few more. But they have got Champions League football to contend with, and that's something they'll probably want to go far in. So I've got them in 4th place. I see them having a really good season this year. I feel like Ten Hag's going to get the most out of some of these players, and I see them finishing 2nd place. For me, it was a toss-up between Arsenal and Man United for 2nd place, so it's quite hard, and I feel like it is going to be tight between the two of them. But I do see Man United having a good season, finishing 2nd place.
Wow, okay, that's incredible. Okay, let's move on to Newcastle United. So I've got Newcastle United in 5th place. Now, Newcastle United did amazing last season, finishing in 4th. They've brought in Sandro Tonali, they've brought in Harvey Barnes, their recruitment's always steady, and they were just really good to watch last season. They are a team we're going to be rooting for in the Champions League. If they get through their group and say they got to the quarterfinals, that would be amazing. I think it's going to be, you know, a brilliant nights at St James's Park. Eddie Howe's a good manager. I think Newcastle United are on course to do well. Like I say, Champions League football might mean there's a tiny drop, but not much of a drop. I'm saying 5th.
I'm going to say 4th. I do feel like you've got enough to finish top 4. Last season you played some great football. I feel like it's going to be the same this season. As you mentioned, they've got a couple new additions, and I feel like they'll settle in quite quick. As round Newcastle, there's a lot of positivity, the momentum's there, and I feel like the only way is up for Newcastle, to be honest. So 4th place for me, and I hope you do well in the Champions League.
Okay, interesting. Right, let's move on to Nottingham Forest. Nottingham Forest I've got in 13th place. I think Nottingham Forest will improve on last season. At this moment in time, there's not a lot of business at Nottingham Forest. They
did it all last year.
Yeah, they brought in so many last season that it makes it look like the most quiet transfer window ever this time round. I think one thing I want to see, though, for Forest is them bring in a keeper, preferably Dean Henderson, but if not, someone else with decent quality, because that position maybe worries me a little bit for Forest. But otherwise, I think they're another year in the Premier League experienced here. Cooper will be learning his trade again, and the likes of Morgan Gibbs-White, who is absolutely fantastic, my personal favourite Nottingham Forest player. Taiwo Wanyi as well. I think they've got enough to improve up the table. Danilo, another player I love, by the way. Felipe. They've got lots of good quality.
Johnson.
I think Yeah, Johnson's still there, but I think Forest, at this moment in time, I think they're going to improve on last season. 3 places up, 13th.
I actually agree with you. I've got them to finish 13th as well. I feel like actually just keeping that squad the same for now is going to benefit them. Maybe a couple more signings around the defence, as last season they'd often score and then they just fall apart at the back and they'd throw games away. And I feel like they'll do better this season. They've learnt last season, a little bit naive. This year they're a bit more experienced and I feel like you are going to do better. So 13th for me.
Interesting. Right, let's move on to a team that's just come up, Sheffield United, who came up from second in the Championship, and they are a bit of a wild card for me. Sheffield United are staying up. A lot of people are writing Sheffield United off. I just think they might have enough to stay up this time round. They're going to be a little bit of a surprise for me, just like they were when they first came up a couple seasons ago. 16th.
For me, I've got them in my bottom 3. I don't think they're going to have enough to stay up. I've got them to finish 19th, so not quite bottom. They had a very, very good season last season in the Championship. It's a different kettle of fish in the Prem, and I do think they're going to struggle. I do think they'll get most of their points at home. However, I think they'll just fall short and they will be going down for me.
Let's move on to Tottenham Hotspur next, Sophie. Tottenham finished in 8th place last season. I'm going to go for them to slightly improve. I'm going to go for a 6th place finish here for Tottenham. Recruitment's been all right. Solomon, Kulusevski's come back, and James Maddison. I think the big talking point is Harry Kane. Is he still going to be there?
It's looking unlikely at the moment.
I hope he is. I hope he is. I think if he's there 5th or 6th, possibly 4th. If he's not, then my prediction could be a little bit over the top here. I think they could be a lot worse without his 30 goals. I'm going to say 6th, but that is the big talking point. Where is Harry Kane going to be?
Yeah, I've actually got him to finish 8th, so a non-move for me. And that is with Kane there. So without Kane, I do feel like they could drop off a lot, as he is their star man and they're so dependent on him. So I hope he does stay, because I like seeing him in the Premier League. But I guess why. Like, I understand why he would want to go to Brighton as well. But for me, 8th place at the moment. It's not a terrible season, although compared to a few years ago, I guess it kind of is. But the recruitment's been all right. Just need to keep hold of Kane for me.
Okay, all right, interesting. Let's move on to West Ham United. So if I've put West Ham in 12th place, I do feel like that could be a little bit of an overestimate, though. I don't know. I'm very unsure about West Ham. I think this region of the table I'm struggling with. At this moment in time, Declan Rice has gone and they haven't really brought many players in. I did watch them in pre-season against Tottenham and they played well. They beat them 3-2. Jared Bowen is really, he's a handful. But I don't know, if they're not going to spend the Declan Rice money, surely they're not going to be as strong next season. Plus, they're going to be in Europe again. And if Europe takes all their focus like it did last season, then the Premier League could be, a season to forget again. I've got them in 12th, though. Share your thoughts, West Ham fans.
Yeah, I've got you to finish 11th purely because I can see you making a few signings. I feel like playing in Europe, you've got a bit more of that pull now compared to like looking at the table of where you finished in the Prem last season. And I feel like there's got to be an improvement on that. Without Rice, that is a big miss. So you need to get a replacement in, and soon for him. But I do see you spending some of that money. And if you do, I feel like it might be an all right season. So 11th place for me. But could go either way, to be honest. Could be a lot lower.
It's so difficult, isn't it? I feel West Ham are one of the hardest teams to predict. Okay, let's finish off with Wolverhampton Wanderers. A little bit of a shock here from me, but I've got Wolves to finish bottom of the division. We've seen the likes of Cody, Diego Costa, Nathan Collins and Neves going out. Lots of players going out. Jimenez goal scoring I'm worried for. I know Diego Costa wasn't exactly one of their first team players, but I'm just mentioning a lot of players have gone out. Neves, probably one of the biggest ones. They brought in 1 or 2 players as well. I don't know. I thought Lopetegui did a decent job actually towards the end of last season, but I don't know. Maybe like what we saw with Leicester, we saw a bit of a team we didn't expect to go down, and maybe that could be Wolves this year. I don't necessarily want it to be Wolves. I quite like Wolves, but
big club for me.
I think I've seen a few of their fans feeling a bit pessimistic about the new season, so I'm going to go for you to go down.
Yeah, I've got you to just go down. I've got you to finish in 18th place. I do feel a little bit harsh sending you down, but it's been a lot of outgoings and I'm not seeing many replacements coming in at the moment. You're not spending much money. So right now, as it stands, I can't see you staying up. And it would be a shame for you to go down, but we've seen big clubs go down and I feel like you could be one of them this season.
Possibly. We shall see. That wraps up today's Premier League predictions, guys. Do share your thoughts down in the comments. Like I say, it's never easy predicting this league, so do give it a go down below and see how many you got right come the end of the season. If you've enjoyed it, please do make sure to drop a like. We're going for 900 likes, and do make sure to subscribe. Thank you for joining me, Sophie.
Thank you.
We'll see you all in the next one. Peace out.